Hello sa ating lahat. I'm Sir Aljon Carl B. Garcia and I will be your teacher in Mathematics 7, Quarter 1, Week 6, Square Root. And for our most essential learning competencies, we have describes principal roots and tells whether they are rational or irrational, determines between what two integers the square root of a number is. Okay. So let's review our previous topic about rational number. Every terminating or non-terminating repeating decimal represents a rational number. Examples: we have 1, 2, negative 5, 0.333, negative 0.25, 1/2, and 1/4. Let's have a challenge. Solve the worded problem. Liza bought a pizza in Kuya Paul's Pizza at Wawa Street, Pililla, Rizal. The box of the pizza has an area of 81 square inches. How long are each side of the pizza's box? So, try nating sagutan ang activity na ito. So, kindly pause the video. Kapag may sagot na, pwede nyo lang i-play ulit. Okay, let's see what is the solution. So we can find the solution on the problem by using square root, which is our topic for today. So here is the solution. The area of a square is A equals S squared, where A equals 81 square inches according to the given, and S squared is S times S. You're going to multiply S to itself because of its exponent, which is 2. So we have the formula A equals S squared. Then substitute the value, which is 81 square inches of A, or the area. And to get the final answer, we need to use the square root. So by using the square root, having the radical sign, we can find S. So makakancel yan, yung square natin dito because of the square root. And then the square root of 81 is 9. So you just need to think of a number when multiplied to itself. The answer is 81. So it is 9. Okay, so that's it for our introduction. Let's proceed to our main topic, which is about square root. So ano nga ba yung square root? A square root of a number is a number when multiplied to itself will give you the original number or the radicand. For example, we have the square root of 16. So the answer here is positive 4 or negative 4. So the square root of 16 are 4 and negative 4 because when positive 4 and negative 4 are multiplied to themselves, they are equal to 16. So kung tingnan natin, if you multiply positive 4 to itself, we will have positive 16. And then, when we multiply negative 4 also to itself, we will also have positive 16. And if we get the square root of 16, we will get to the answer, which is positive 4 and negative 4. So those are the numbers that can be multiplied to itself, and the answer will be 16. So we have here the parts of a radical or a square root. For example, we have the square root of 16. So this is what we call the radical. Then, this symbol is what we call the radical sign. And the answer is what we call the roots. And the number inside the radical sign is what we call the radicand. Next, what do we mean by principal square root? So it is the positive square root of the given number or the radicand. So yun yung sagot kanina na positive number dun sa square root of 16. So we have the square root of 16, we have positive 4 or negative 4. So we have here the principal root, which is the positive 4. So the principal root is rational if the radicand is a perfect square. If not, then the principal square root is irrational. So kailangan pala perfect square yung radicand natin, which is example natin ay 16. Kapag hindi daw, magiging irrational number siya. Okay, examples. We have square root of 4 and the principal root is 2, wherein 2 is a rational number because the radicand 4 is a perfect square. Next, we have the square root of 5, where 5 is not a perfect square. That's why the principal root is an irrational number. Okay? So what do we mean by perfect square? So nagbigay tayo ng example ng perfect square like 16 and 4. Pero ano nga ba siya at paano natin siya malalaman? So perfect square is a product of a number and itself. So we have here the examples. 3 squared or 3 times 3 is equal to 9. That's why 9 is a perfect square. So nanggaling kasi yung 9 sa 3 na multiply sa sarili niya, ang sagot ay 9. Ibig sabihin, 9 is a perfect square kasi may pinanggalingan siya na na-square. Like 3 squared. Okay? Next, 4 is also a perfect square because it is a product of 2 and itself. So, tingnan natin. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. Therefore, 4 is a perfect square. The best way to find the principal root is to know the perfect squares. Can you give some examples of perfect squares? Let's start. Find the perfect squares given the square of the integers. So we have items 1 to 10 and you have to multiply each numbers to find the perfect squares. So, pwede nyong i-post yung video kapag nakuha nyo na yung sagot. Pwede nyo na ulit i-play to check your answers. We have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, and 100. So those are the perfect squares from 1 to 100. Very good. I hope nakuha nyo lahat ng tamang sagot. So what is irrational number? The principal root is irrational if the radicand is not a perfect square. So kung yung sagot nyo kanina doon sa 1 to 100 na perfect squares ay hindi iyon, possible ang magiging sagot natin ay irrational. If the square root of a number is non-terminating, non-repeating decimal, we say that it is an irrational number. Okay, so we have examples here. Square root of 2, where 2 is not a perfect square, that's why the answer or the principal root is an irrational number. Then again, we have the square root of 5, where 5 is not also a perfect square, that's why its principal root is an irrational number. And we also have the square root of 17, where 17 is not a perfect square, that's why the principal root is also an irrational number. Okay, so pansinin nyo mabuti, dapat ang makuha yung square root ay nasa sagot natin. For example, here, from 1 to 100, we have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100. Pag hindi yan nakuha yung problem, kapag kinukuha yung square root, magiging irrational ang sagot. So, pakitandaan mabuti yan ha. At sana alam nyo na din yung 11 squared, 12 squared, 13 squared, so on and so forth, para maalala nyo lahat ng perfect squares. Okay, let's continue. Now let's try. Tell whether each of the following is a rational or irrational. If it is rational, give the principal root. So we have here 1 to 5 items. For example, we have square root of 4. Ang sagot ba nating principal root ay rational or irrational? So alamin natin, yung 4 ba ay perfect square? Kung perfect square siya, therefore the answer of its principal root is rational. So sabi sa instruction, kapag rational, ilalagay natin yung mismong principal root. Kung siya ay irrational, wala na tayong ilalagay. So dahil siya ay rational, ang sagot natin sa principal root ay 2. Dahil square root of 4 ay equal sa 2. Naintindihan ba? Okay, so you may now start. You can pause the video and play it again kapag ready na kayong mag-check. Okay, tingnan natin kung nakuha niyo lahat ng tamang sagot. So number 1, it is rational and the principal root is 3. Number 2 is irrational at wala natin ilalagay sa principal root. Number 3, it is rational and the answer is 5. Then number 4 is also rational and its principal root is 8. And number 5 is irrational. Okay, very good. I hope nakuha nyo lahat ng tamang sagot. If the principal root is irrational, the best you can do is to give an estimate of its value. So paano nga ba mag-estimate ng square root? Lalo na kapag siya ay irrational number. So let's determine between what two integers the square root of a number is. So we have here the first illustrative example, between which two consecutive integers does square root of 10 lie. Okay, so mapapansin natin, sa square root of 10, 10 is not a perfect square. Kaya may sagot natin dito ay irrational number. So, ang una natin gagawin, nahanapin natin kung saan siya malapit doon sa integers natin. So, the solution, we have 10 lies between the consecutive perfect squares 9 and 16. So, dapat alam natin yung mga perfect squares para malaman natin kung saang perfect square malapit or pinagigitnaan yung 10. So, we have 9 and 16. So, 9 is less than 10 and 10 is less than 16. And get their square roots. So, that's the process. We will have 3 less than square root of 10 and square root of 10 is less than 4. So, square root of 10 is between 3 and 4. So, ganun lang kasimple. Let's have the example number 2. Between which two consecutive integers does square root of 87 lie? So again, 87 is not a perfect square, so the principal root is irrational. Let's have the solution. 87 lies between the consecutive perfect squares 81 and 100. So alamin muna natin kung saan malapit na perfect squares yung 87. So 81 is less than 87. And 87 is less than 100. So get their square roots. We have 9 less than square root of 87. And then square root of 87 is less than 10. That's why square root of 87 is between 9 and 10. Points to ponder. So how will you find the principal root of a number? So to find the principal root, think of a positive integer. When multiplied to itself, you will get the original number or the radicand. Number 2. How will you determine if a principal root is a rational number or an irrational number? The principal root is rational if the radicand is a perfect square. If not, then the principal root is irrational. So, laging tatandaan yung perfect squares. Number 3. How will you determine between what two integers the square root of a number is? We need to find the two consecutive perfect squares where the number is between of those perfect squares, then get their principal roots. Tulad ng ginawa natin sa illustrative example 1 and 2, kunin yung square root kapag nakuha na natin yung perfect squares. And then we will have the two consecutive integers. Nice job! I hope naintindihan nyo ang ating topic. Let's have some problem solving. Magkaroon tayo ng challenge. Tingnan natin kung makukumpara natin ang tamang sagot. Problem number 1. Lina has a square window on their house with an area of 144 square inches. How long are each side of the window? Determine if the answer is rational or irrational. If rational, find its principal root. So paki-pause lang yung video. Pag nalaman nyo na yung sagot, i-play na ulit ito. Okay, let's see if your answer is correct. Okay, so we have the area of a square, which is a equals s squared. Then we have a equals 144 square inches. Kukunin natin yung square root, kaya magiging sagot ay 12 inches. So, 144 is a perfect square, that's why the answer is rational. And the principal root is 12. Okay? Next, Problem number 2. A chemical must be put into the cylinder. The science teacher said that the amount of the chemical should be on square root of 56 milliliter. Between what two integers in ml or milliliter should the chemical component will be? Okay, paki-pause lang ulit ang video and play kapag okay na. Okay, let's check. So, hanapin muna natin kung saan malapit yung 56 na perfect squares. So, we have 49 and 64. So, 49 is less than 56, while 56 is less than 64. So, dapat pinagigitnaan siya ng dalawang perfect squares na yon. And then, get their square roots. So, square root of 49 is 7 and square root of 64 is 8. That's why the square root of 56 ml is between 7 ml and 8 ml. So, nasa pagitan lang pala ng 7 ml and 8 ml ang amount ng chemical na ilalagay doon sa cylinder. Well done! I hope nakuha nyo na talaga ang ating lesson. Okay, let's have an assessment via Google Quiz. So, enter this site on your browser. Kopyahin lang ito, i-type sa browser, click enter, at sagutan yung mga problem na nandoon sa Google Quiz. Tingnan natin kung makukuha nyo lahat ng tamang sagot. So, ito nga pala ang ating assessment sa mismong Google Quiz. Checkan natin kung nakuha nyo ang mga tamang sagot. Between which two consecutive integers does the square root lie? So, we have the items 1 to 10. For number 1, we have 2 and 3. Number 2, 6 and 7. Number 3, 4 and 5. Number 4, 4 and 5. Number 5, 9 and 10. Number 6, 6 and 7. 7, 10 and 11. Number 8, 8 and 9. Number 9, 8 and 9. And number 10, 11 and 12. Very good sa inyong lahat. And here's our references. Thank you. Salamat sa pakikinig. Have a good day.